Fuck, migraines suck ass. Especially whenever they're not caused by, things that you've done to yourself. Drinking, smoking, drugs. Whenever there's a type that just fucking show up, whenever you wake up, you just notice that your whole entire head feels like it's been detached. Musical migraines, on the other hand, are equally as frustrating, however, don't necessarily come as any big surprise. In fact, sometimes musical migraines are almost predictable. However, this is not an example of one. In fact, it's more their past that actually fits the musical migraine motif, and that's the band Soilwork. The past couple of albums by Soilwork have been musical migraines for me. In fact, it's been that way since about, Natural Born Chaos, where it's kind of fit this Gothenburg/melodic death metal sound that's really been predictable, but at the same time has kind of de-evolved from their electric debut, Still Bath Suicide, and the even better Chain Heart Machine. However, the Panic broadcast, which was released just last week in Europe and will actually be coming out here in America in a couple of days, is a little bit different than a musical migraine. In fact, I thought that this was going to be a predictable musical migraine. However, instead, it happened to be a little bit more of like a musical tension headache. And the reason why I use that particular metaphor is that musical migraine would be a miserable experience, and I would be here rambling about the pain over and over again, taking some sort of musical Excedrin or whatever. That metaphor has gone on way too long. But instead, the Panic broadcast actually is a bit of an improvement as compared to some of the other albums that could be compared to musical migraines. However, it's not quite a resurfacing of the old Soilwork sound. In fact, if anything, they're trying to blend the two a little bit better, a little bit more closely together than they were able to do on previous records, at least in this reviewer's humble opinion. The Panic broadcast still maintains their same melodic death metal sound. It's very Gothenburg influenced because, of course, Soilwork is one of the main members of this particular scene. Been around since the mid-1990s, so it kind of comes as no surprise. However, the one thing that you will notice is that there's definitely an updated sound that they have maintained over the past couple of albums. You can actually compare it a little bit to In Flames, only Soilwork seems to be even a little bit more accessible, except that they are still trying to retain some of their elder influences. You might be wondering, now what the fuck is he talking about? Well, I actually illustrated this perfectly a couple of nights ago whenever I was doing a blog TV for some of you fine subscribers. The second track off of the Panic broadcast actually illustrates both the old and the new in quite a perfect fashion. Whenever you would hear the clean vocals in this particular song, you're of course reminded of the newer sound that Soilwork has kind of adapted over the past couple of albums here in the 2000s. However, whenever you heard the solo that this sound was able to produce, sound, whatever, you're kind of almost reminded of where they came from. And you're very reminded that they have an exceptional amount of talent that, for some strange reason, they just haven't exactly displayed on a consistent basis over the past couple of years. It reminds me of songs such as Spirits of the Future Sun off of the Chain Heart Machine, which is actually the point that I exhibited whenever I was on Blog TV the other night. Really, you could almost say that track 2 and most of the songs in the Panic broadcast is almost like an updated version of the Chain Heart Machine. One that really adapted a whole bunch of the elements from the new sound that Soilwork has decided to adapt, which was kind of more a modern version of the Gothenburg style. It's very reminiscent of In Flames. However, they have decided to maintain some of that technical aspect that they had on albums such as Still Bath Suicide and Chain Heart Machine. The result actually is kind of nice, to be perfectly honest, because instead of having something to be completely upset about or completely disappointed with, as I've had with the past couple of albums where they've just been kind of okay, either that or have not really held my attention very much to the chagrin of a lot of Soilwork fans. This album is actually one of those albums that is rare for the Cover Killer channel, where it's neither really good nor is it really terrible. Now, don't get me wrong, this is an album that definitely falls way short of expectations that diehard fans of Soilwork have had ever since that they've adapted this new sound and kind of distanced themselves from the harder edge that they had on albums such as, yeah, I'll say it again, Chain Heart Machine. Let me say it a couple more times just to get it out of the way. Chain Heart Machine, Chain Heart Machine, Chain Heart Machine, Chain Heart Machine, Heart Chain Machine, fuck. Anyways, this is a particular album where they blend the old and the new nicely, as I said before, and this actually creates an experience that can be kind of a musical conundrum, a musical confusion, but at the same time, it does not necessarily decay the process whatsoever. The listening process for this particular album is going to be one of, I like it, I hate it, I like it, I hate it, I'm pissed off, I'm happy, that's pretty cool, that's not cool, blah 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 blah. And the result is that you're looking at basically an average album whenever you look at the grand scheme of things, if you're taking a look at like a top 20 list or something like that. But whenever it comes to Soilwork and their most recent output, this is actually an album that shows a lot of improvement. It's one that's actually kind of like, if you're on a musical roller coaster, you've kind of been at the ravine at the end of the big drop, the ascent skyward. And now it's almost like they're creeping back up another little ascent, and perhaps we could see a classic album next after this. I'm not holding my breath, but this could be a step in the right direction. I think the combination of the elements of the old and the new is actually kind of a nice little touch, but at the same time it's something that diehard purists are really looking to see more of that old school style infused, whereas the newer fans will actually find this to be rather nice and a little bit harder for them. It might actually be something where they may be exposed to a little bit more of a brutal edge. However, as an overall experience, I have to say that this is an album that, yeah, it demands multiple listens from me in order for me to really determine whether or not it's going to be a favorite of mine or if it's going to just sort of rot away in my collection. And after doing that, I recognize that it's going to be one of those albums that's going to be brought out just whenever I kind of want to listen to it and see if it hits me a different way. With most of the Soilwork albums that have followed this formula, it's not hit me a different way, and if anything, it's enraged me more. The Chain Heart Machine, Still Bad Suicide, and the first couple 3 albums are really the only ones that didn't have that particular element to me. Instead, they were ones that I really enjoyed and still enjoy to this day. However, I think this album is just going to kind of be in the middle, walking that tightrope of between mediocrity and meaningfulness. However, take a listen to it. It's one of those albums that will hit everybody differently. It will hit Soilwork fans of the new age differently than it does the old fans differently. I'm, of course, an old fan, so it's going to hit me kind of like a breath of fresh air, but the breath is still a little bit poisoned. So check it out. See what you think. As for me, I'm going to bed. This might not have been a musical migraine, but my physical migraine wasn't helped by it.